Rocky Top Insider instant reaction to Tennessee baseball's 12-3 win over Southern Miss here in the Knoxville Regional Final in Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Tennessee is advancing to their fourth consecutive Super Regional, and that's also 4 straight regional sweeps. Of course, there were a lot of storylines going into tonight's game, being the Super Regional rematch from last year as Tennessee beat Southern Miss last year in Hattiesburg, but Tennessee dominates Southern Miss 10 unanswered runs to rout them.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, and I think it's kind of two things that we saw. One, it's been a common theme in this team all year. It feels like they respond to adversity really, really well. And that happened with Xander Seacrest a couple of times tonight. I'm sure we'll talk more about that later. And it happened with Southern Miss takes a 3-2 lead in the 5th inning. Boom, Tennessee 4 spot to take the lead. Tennessee scores 10 straight runs to really turn this one into a rout. So I think that's the first thing. No surprise, we've seen that a lot. And then another no surprise, you just see how easy it is, how much easier it is when you come out of the winner's bracket.
Yeah.
As Southern Miss in that 6th inning was going to pitchers at that point, they were past all the guys that they had that were any good. A lot of 8 ERAs. At the same time, Nate Snead, who hadn't thrown a pitch all inning, was
right.
trotting it to the mound to throw in the upper 90s. So it was a reminder of how hard it is to climb out of the loser's bracket. And certainly at that point, when Tennessee was reeling a little bit, they throw a big punch, and from there they just dominated.
Yeah, so many storylines in tonight's game, a lot to get to, but you talk about Southern Miss arms. Really coming into today, they had 2 options of who they were going to start, J.B. Middleton or Chandler Best, 2 of their top relievers all season. They go with Middleton. He did pretty well.
Yeah.
He kept the game at bay, unlike a lot of the pitchers who followed him, but Tennessee was able to get to him, get to Chandler Best also, who only ended up pitching 1.2 innings, but 5 home runs tonight. Tennessee breaking the single-season team program home run record with 159 homers this year in 64 games. The 22 team, which previously held the record, had 158 in 66 games.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's pretty crazy, and it felt like when Tennessee set that record 2 years ago, I was like, this one may never
it's a historic team.
Never be broken. And here, Tennessee in the regional round, they got 2 more games guaranteed, and I think all of us think they'll be playing more than that the rest of the season for them to break it. And it's just the depth of the lineup's been unbelievable. I mean, you have 2 players with 20-plus home runs. One of them's got 29 in Christian Moore. 5 guys with 15-plus. 6 guys with 10-plus. And 2 more guys with 9. So there's a great chance the season ends with Tennessee having 8 different players hit double-digit home runs. So, I mean, it's been pretty unbelievable. I mean, I think my bold prediction for the year was they would end up with like 7 or 8.
So, yeah, I believe
it's
seven.
7 of them, and it's a great chance it'll end up being 8. So it's just been some unbelievable power hitting. And kind of to go back to your point on J.B. Middleton, yeah, I thought he was really good. It was his longest outing of the year.
Yep.
And it wasn't like he just shut down Tennessee's offense, but like you said, kept him at bay and gave Southern Miss plenty of chances to win at that point.
Yeah, you talk about the amount of Tennessee players having double-digit home runs. The 22 team had 9, but they had nobody get 30. Trey Lipscomb led the team with 22. Semo's going to get 30, and like you said, they're going to have multiple others reach 20. Lipscomb was the only one to have 20 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I guess Christian Moore and Blake Burke both hit 10 that year.
Burke had 14, Semo had 10.
It's 2 dudes who were part-time starters. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, the 15-plus number, I think, is the one that kind of differentiates. Obviously, Semo has a lot more than anybody on that team, but so many guys with 15-plus, and really a lot of those 15-plus guys are knocking on the door at 20. I think Tiers at 18, Burke at 18, Treiling 17, 18, something like that.
Treiling is 19 after tonight.
19, so it could very well end up being 5 guys with 20-plus home runs on this team.
Big offensive development of the weekend is the production from the bottom of the order. Dean Curley bouncing back this weekend, having a big weekend at the plate. And then Cal Stark, how about him? 3 homers in the past 2 games, 2 tonight, had the record breaker, that 434-foot monstrous homer, 3-run homer late to really put the icing on the cake. I believe you tweeted, warm up the buses, Southern Miss, because at that point, 12-3, game over. So Cal Stark, Dean Curley really coming up big this weekend and giving Tennessee a lot of pop there in the bottom of the order.
Yeah, I'll start with Cal Stark because it feels like he can have these type of weekends every once in a while. And it started with him doing a lot of things he does consistently pretty well at the plate, which is when things aren't clicking for him, he's working competitive at bats, walking, getting hit by pitches, knows how to get on base. But then you saw the offense explosion. I mean, he ends up with 3 home runs. We haven't, at the time of this recording, we don't know the all-tournament team. You can check it out. Well, I'm sure we'll have it all on RockyTopInsider.com. I think Cal Stark's probably going to be the MVP, would be my guess. Which
really?
Is, I mean, it's him or Dreiling, I think. But
I think it'll be Dreiling.
Yeah, we'll see. But
it depends on how many people voted after the game. I think.
That's true.
Because if you voted after the game and Stark has the 3-run homer to break the record, like maybe that.
I know the people in the press box, we had voted before, but after the Cal Stark home run, we were able to change some MVP votes.
Okay.
So, I don't know. It still probably will be pretty close.
I mean, I think Dreiling before today was hitting like 583 on the weekend, and he had another great day.
Yeah.
2 for 4 today. So
his average would definitely be
500
way higher. Cal just worked so many walks. I think his
Got on
on
base
base
a lot
percentage
more.
is going to be maybe not more, but close enough when you get talk about the 3 home runs and the things he did defensively. So
that's fair.
we'll see. We'll figure that out in a little bit. But with Dean, to me, that felt like the bigger development because we know he's a talented guy, and the power had just kind of been gone, and it almost kind of felt like a little bit of it being freshman year, the wear and tear of the season. Maybe that's weighing on him because he hit so many home runs early in the season and then hadn't hit one since the Auburn game. I think it was, we said it on here yesterday, maybe 81 at bats before he hit it. So for him, not only to have a good weekend at the plate, to have the power really show up, I think is a really good sign and can be encouraging for what, this Tennessee lineup having an extra boost going forward into Super Regionals and then potentially College World Series.
Xander Sechrist 4 2/3 tonight on the mound, giving up 4 hits, 3 runs, none earned because Billy Amick error kind of set up that inning for Southern Miss to get some rhythm going offensively. But you talk about Xander Sechrist taking the comebacker off the outside of his left knee, I believe, in the 4th inning, and to really bounce back and get out of a jam there in the 4th and then continue pitching. It just shows the resiliency of Sechrist.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it was in a lot of different ways. The toughness is something that shows up immediately, and I wrote that feature on Xander this week, and that's something that Tennessee strength and conditioning coach Quentin Eberhardt said he's one of the toughest guys on the team, and you really wouldn't think that about Xander. And
so goofy.
Yeah, he's so goofy, and we saw it last week at the SEC tournament. He took the line drive or kind of a grounder off his leg, and you didn't think he got up, popped up, run off. This didn't make the story, so this is extra bonus stuff. I couldn't figure out a way to squeeze it in. He went, he runs off the field. He pitches the rest of the game. It was really good. No signs of it. And we were talking to him before media earlier this week before the regional, and he shows he's got this massive, like 2-3 softball-sized bruise on his leg. You wouldn't think anything of it. And I mean, he's down for 2 minutes maybe when he takes that 105-mile-per-hour line drive. So for him to get up, get out of that inning, keep pitching was really impressive. And more than that, it was a lot of adversity. You mentioned the error. Billy Amick error in the 5th inning when he ends up giving up a couple of runs. Well, the one bat it, and he gives him the 3rd. He retires the first 7 batters he faces. Walk and a real competitive at bat, kind of tip your cap to the 8 hitter for Southern Miss. Then a bunt single, tough break, and then that's when the ground ball to Blake Burke happens. Blake Burke has the throwing error, hits off of the runner's helmet, trickles into center field, run scores. Still 1 out, runners on 1st and 3rd. Yeah, I mean that's an unearned run there too, and it just felt like all right, this could balloon on Tennessee a little bit. No one else scores against the heart of that Southern Miss order. So I thought there were just multiple times, even past the line drive, where he really kind of gritted out some opportunities, and it could have been a lot more runs put on the board by Southern Miss that would have also been unearned, but a lot more runs if he hadn't locked in the way he did. Maybe
something forgotten about tonight with everything going on, breaking records, advancing to a 4th straight Supers, 5 home runs. Nate Snead's outing, 4 1/3, only 3 hits allowed, 0 runs, did walk a pair, but struck out 3. Nate Snead dominated Southern Miss tonight and pitched the remainder of the game. I think it's important to really talk about how great he was tonight. Only 54 pitches in 4 1/3.
Yeah, it was cruise control. I mean, it just felt like he got a lot of quick outs. One of those hits was one of the softest hits you're ever going to see that just kind of got past Blake Burke, and Christian Moore got it before it got out of the outfield, even though Christian Moore wasn't anywhere near the ball where it got hit. It was just so softly hit, and I think at that point it was 2 on, nobody out in that inning. He retired the next 3 guys. So he was dominant, and he continues to be really, really good and a really reliable arm for Tennessee. And it's just weird the way that things have developed this season. And certainly Drew Beam's a really good pitcher, and he's been reliable. It feels like Tennessee's 3 best pitchers are all bullpen guys. When you're talking about Snead, Combs, and Causey. Obviously, all those guys have somewhat different roles, and Causey's essentially a starting pitcher out of the bullpen. But those 3 guys are dominant, and it just feels like if Tennessee, which has such a good offense, can get into the middle of the game leading, it's going to be really hard to beat them because of the guys they have in the bullpen.
Kind of talked about it a little bit there, but I do also want to talk about Christian Moore's defensive play this weekend. Flat out phenomenal today, and overall for the weekend, really, really good.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he had 2 spectacular plays yesterday, another spectacular play today, and another one that maybe not spectacular, but a really nice play, I guess, in the 1st inning. It was kind of a combination of really good positioning. He was the shift. He was playing in the shallow right field out here, and the ball was rocketed, and he timed the jump perfectly to make the play. I think he really had to time it perfectly to make it happen, and he did. So he was really good defensively this weekend. Probably by his standards, he wasn't as good at the plate, but that's still a weekend where he had a couple home runs,
Yep.
Probably hit right around 300. On base percentage was right around 400. So he was still really good at the plate, just not as amazing as he's been the back half of the season.
Yeah, the top of the order tonight didn't produce a lot, but they worked a couple of key walks. Blake Burke and Christian Moore working 2 a pop, and with the middle of the order doing what they did, and the back end, as I said, it didn't really matter. Tennessee scored 12 runs tonight. Before we get out of here, quick trivia question, Ryan.
Okay.
I will be very impressed if you get this.
Okay.
2022, May night, Tuesday night against Alabama A&M. Tennessee hits their 107th and 108th home run of the season to break the previous record that was set by the 98 team. Can you name the player that hit the record-breaking 108th home run? Late Tuesday against Alabama A&M.
I think it's Charlie Taylor.
It is not Charlie Taylor.
Oh, man, that would have been awesome.
He terrorized Alabama A&M in 23.
Okay.
22,
I guess
don't even think he had a homer.
That's what I think I was thinking of.
Well, I'll also talk about the guy who tied it. Ethan Payne tied it in the same game.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a midweeker. Yeah. So he's still on the team. The guy who broke it, Logan Steenstra. How's that for a blast from the past?
That's such a blast from the past that when you were saying who it was and you said Logan, my first thought was Chambers.
Right.
It wasn't even Steenstra. So, yeah, well, quite the blast from the past for sure.
Much more significant player broke the record tonight. Say what you will about Cal Stark, but he's a significant player for these Vols and a big reason why they're advancing to the 4th consecutive Super Regional, 4th straight regional sweep, as I said at the top of this thing. So, Ryan, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, just to list some numbers like that. Super Regional format began in 1999 before Tony Vitello got there. Tennessee did it twice, both times going to Omaha in 01 and 05. Now, 4 straight trips to the Super Regional, and obviously revisionist history. You never know what's going to happen, but I bet that 2020 team would have been in Super Regional too if the season hadn't gotten canceled for COVID. So, and you see, I guess a rant here. It's not going to. Sorry, people listening, you don't want to hear this, but you see it around the country. I know LSU's forced a game 7 out in Chapel Hill. Vanderbilt struggling, Arkansas struggling, consistency in this sport. Ole Miss and Mississippi State win the national championship.
Don't even make
They've combined to make it in, I guess, 5 seasons since now, 3. I don't know. I can't try to do the math. In the season since, they've combined to make 1 NCAA tournament, and they didn't make it out of regional.
Well, neither made Hoover the next year after they won the Natty.
So in a sport where consistency is so hard, some incredible consistency from Tennessee baseball these last 4 seasons.
No doubt about it. They'll host either East Carolina or Evansville next weekend in Knoxville for the Super Regional.
The Purple Aces.
Purple Aces and the Pirates will go toe-to-toe Monday in Greenville, which should be an exciting, Game 7 in that regional.
Yeah, it should. Just from the looks of things, I'm not sure Evansville has a ton of pitching left.
I don't think East Carolina does either.
Yeah, they can't. I mean, they have come out of the loser's bracket, and they used so many pitchers in that Wake Forest game.
Well, what a story the Purple Aces would be. What a story.
It'd be incredible, and it'd be good. It'd be a good story for East Carolina too. I mean, last year Tennessee played Southern Miss in the Super Regionals, and Southern Miss lost their first game in the regional and climbed all the way back out. So I guess that's maybe a little counterproductive to my point to start the podcast or to start the video that it's so hard to do that. But East Carolina's got a great chance to do it, and it'll be a good story and a good matchup one way or another.
Well, we're going to get out of here. Keep an eye out for the RTI Press Pass Baseball podcast coming your way this week for an NCAA Super Regional preview. For Ryan, I'm Jack. We'll see you next time.